Okay, so to set the context again, I started a new job 5 months ago called Next Month. Who's heard of Next Month before? I know you two. so we're a cloud communications platform. We provide APIs for international voice, SMS, and things like two-factor authentication. We focused primarily previously on traditional enterprise, which is probably why you've not heard of us. I joined to form a developer relations team, so I work on the developer advocacy team. So we work on improving the developer experience and also doing some of the awareness stuff like this. Part of the opportunity as well is to learn, like what is contextual communications, and then share what I learned, or in this case, share as much as I've managed to gather, and then get feedback and learn from you. So the plan was to cover what is contextual communications, why it matters, and so the what, why, and how it can be achieved, obviously with a JavaScript event, focusing on JavaScript if we can. So this is context. So bananas, or geolocation. So when I say bananas, it doesn't make any sense in the context of this talk or even this place, this meetup. But when I say geolocation, at least there's some reference to potentially busy cities in the talk previously. So we get the idea of context, right? But contextual communication, a bidirectional transfer of information between two parties where both parties are aware of the relational environment and cultural context of the exchange. Pretty good definition, right? So for me, like this.
What is it? It's a rent in the space-time continuum. What is it? The space is from freezes tiny or time stands still. So whenever you have a leak, it must preserve whatever it's leaked into, and it's leaked into this room. What is it? It's a singularity.
So that's how I feel about
the universe with the normal laws of...
Who can remember that? Okay, a few people. So I'm reasonably old. A better example,
Mayday.
although a bit cheesy.
Thank you for pressing the Mayday button. How can I help you?
Whoa, who are you?
I'm Amy, a tech advisor for your new Kindle Fire.
I didn't realize I get a live person.
Yep, we're here 24/7. We can draw on your screen and even show you how to use different features.
So I can just press the Mayday button and you're here to help?
Hit Mayday and I'm coming to the rescue.
Amy?
I like you.
I like you.
Aww.
Introducing the revolutionary new Kindle Fire HDX.
What's the next one? The next one? No, we'll keep going. So, has anyone got a Kindle Fire? You ever used the Mayday button? Oh. But it's quite a nice idea, right? So you're in the application, you're in a specific part of the application, you can press a button and get help. And Amy, in this case, she knows where you are in the application, she can see your screen. She can't see you, apparently. They're making a point of that in one of the future commercials. But she can also potentially control your screen and help draw on it, annotate it, and so on. So she knows who you are, which is obviously quite important. I wonder whether, if it got into some account-based information, that they might do some verbal authorization, security check. She knows what you're doing on your Kindle, and she can annotate it, and she can control it. There are obviously lots of parodies of these things, and you can imagine what hey, creepy guy again. There's another example, Intercom.
So you have a mobile app, and you have users, but the problem is that you don't know who they are. Some use your app once and don't come back, and you're not able to help them when they need it. Intercom shows you who your users are and what they're doing inside your app. With this live user data, you can send them push notifications, in-app messages, and emails to keep them engaged. You can start conversations by asking for their feedback, and you can let your users ask you for help, and you can answer their questions in real time. Once installed, Intercom will start tracking your users. You'll see live data about who they are, what features they're using, and lots more. With all this live data, you can send them highly targeted contextual messages to keep them engaged. For example, you could automatically send an in-app message to users who signed up 5 days ago, but who haven't taken a key step yet, like created their first project. And you can target on which device your users will receive the message first, for example, Android. Then all you do is compose your message.
So that goes on for quite a while, and you can find it in search Intercom, and specifically, I guess, contextual communication. So again, Intercom, The interesting thing here is that it's a service that you use as a developer, as a service provider. And it's really powerful. We used to use it at Pusher where I used to work previously. That's the problem. It is really good, and with all that different data, you can create very targeted messaging based on certain events that take place. Plus, you can have the real-time in chat stuff. I know that Adam quite likes intercom in dashboards, so he can annoy tech support. I mean, ask questions, build relationships, and make friends. So, but they've got a lot of data. You can configure the data that they're going to collect. There's obviously some standard stuff, and you can also collect it. And the interesting thing here, has anybody heard of Omnichannel before? It's one of these marketing buzz things. So it basically it's cross or multi-channel. So push notifications, SMS, email, in-app messaging, phone. So this idea of intercom can do that. In-app messaging, can do push notifications, and can do email. And in all of those cases, they have a context about who that user is and what they've done. So why? Why would you want this contextual communication? I quite like the Google example. Let me show you. And it's a bit weird. Does anybody use the voice thing? No. So I go. Mission Impossible.
Here is some information about Mission Impossible.
Stars.
The cast of Mission Impossible includes Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, and others.
So what's quite interesting about that is I don't know whether it happens when you type, but it's quite interesting that it remembers the context of your first search and then carries that on to the next one. And I think in the voice sense, that's really important that the context moves with you. And it actually really improves the experience. You can almost go on a journey in this sense. So now everyone will be going home and doing that. Who's ever had to phone up a utility company and then been passed from pillar to post and then having to explain the story again? And again, the problem there is that the context doesn't move with you. You have an initial conversation, you explain the problem, you get passed into someone else, and you can feel you just don't want to go through that same explanation again. So you try and do it faster, and then you have to repeat yourself again and again. And that constantly happens. But if that data, if that context could be transferred with you, then it would remove all that problem. At least they could log it into a brief history in some sort of shared device or shared system, and then pass that information on. And that is happening, but it's not happening as much as it should. So it should avoid, maintain that context should avoid you having to provide all that information up front. It should definitely improve the user experience and reduce the frustration. And it should enable you to build more intelligent systems. If all that information is already in place, for instance with Intercom, you can really do some very fine-grained queries, make some intelligent decisions about the sort of messaging and how you communicate with people. And then the multi-channel, omni-channel thing, that's quite interesting. Now this was created by the more marketing business side of I work for, the product manager at real-time web solutions event. But the point here is that the customer journey in terms of interacting with a company can start on social. When they move to the website, there might be in-app messaging that goes on there through something like Intercom. They might then, I don't know whether, I don't pick up the phone very often. The phone rings and I go, oh, who's phoning me? And quickly send it to answer phone. I don't mind so much dialing out, but it might go to phone. And then you might go on mobile. Mobile could be, I've been in America too much, mobile. And you might use a specific application for that company to interact with the customers, or you might use mobile web, or you might phone them, or you might, I don't know, SMS them, maybe not. And then, I don't know, you go into store, no, you probably go into www again and buy the thing, but there are all these, maybe the in-person interaction. So there's the website, the email, maybe, I don't think you've got them there really. In person, mobile app, SMS, voice, all these different channels of communication. And it's very difficult to take that context, who you are, what you're getting in contact about, the history of that conversation, and move it forward across all these channels. But if you could, we've seen some examples there where context can be taken with you. So it is possible. You can obviously save a lot of time, you can maintain relevance of that communication, you can enhance that user experience, which is ultimately, I think, a lot of the time we're all trying to do if you're building a user-facing application. And also, different people like to communicate in different ways. So we do actually have a chat API that integrates with Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and WeChat. And we offer this aggregation on top of it, so it's nice that you can, as a developer, write code against one API and then potentially send data to different ones. But there are all these different channels as well. There's in-app messaging, maybe a little WebSocket, there's WebRTC, audio, video, there's standard PSTN, there's SMS, there's traditional voice over PSTN, like I said. So it is quite hard, and how do you take that? How do you allow users to communicate in the way that they want, and the channels they want, and take that context with them? This is just to try and, I don't know a lot about this, so this is just to validate the stuff I'm saying. Gartner have said that by 2017, 70% of customer communications will be digital. I think that's a no-brainer. I mean, even the standard voice is moving to a digital form anyway. Contextualized, that's what we've been talking about, the benefit of taking context with you and providing context within communication. Consumed on demand. I think that via multiple devices, I think that's very important as well. It's, I want to communicate with somebody or a company when I want to do it, and in the form that I want to do it over, the channel I want to do it over. It could be that older people are more familiar with SMS, so they quite like the SMS channel. I've seen a lot of concierge services that are coming along with SMS as a basis for communication. So how do we do it? Now this is where I need your help. So the other day I drew on a whiteboard, I haven't got a picture of it here, of this idea of an application, and then the device, and then all the things around it, and Adam kindly said it looked like a floppy disk. That's not what I was aiming for, so I've tried to build a slightly nicer looking example, and I'll go into each of these bits from now on. You can see there's all sorts of different pieces of data, so I've got the Windows in the middle is meant to be the app, there's the phone, there's the identity, there's some data storage, there's a calendar, and so on. And in native, that's a lot easier. I mean, if I look at things like Twitter, and I can't, it's very strange actually to see the amount of permissions that I give these things and don't really realise it. And I don't really know why Twitter needs all of that information, or Amazon needs all that information. But the point is, on native, when you're building native apps, it's quite easy to say, I just want to access all this information. But when it comes to building JavaScript apps, it's a little bit tricky. I think you rely on APIs, you rely on the runtime, the browser. So how do we do it? As I said, this is where I need your help. And I think there's two things to think of. I think just situation is very important as well. So we don't always need to think about communication, although it's obviously what we're generally aiming for. So there's the situation that someone's in, like they're going somewhere. The example I showed earlier with busy cities, the idea was that I would put myself somewhere off in Bristol and then click a button and show the journey in to the Just Eat office. So that could have been the situation. And we can think about how I might want to communicate with other people, or how I might want to communicate with companies, or how people, when they're trying to communicate with me, how an application that I built to allow that communication should deal with that situation that I'm in. So if we first look at identity, I've tried to bring out some solutions that we could use as developers. I'm trying to kind of think front-end apps. We do have, I've only just tried this out today for the first time. I didn't get it working. But we'll get there, We aren't here to improve the developer experience. But I've played with all zero before, played with digits before. So there's obviously identity, but I don't think, from the communication point of view, that adds some security to the context. You know who you're communicating with. You can know, the really good thing on Android devices is when someone calls you and they're a registered business on, they've got a Google Plus page or something, and it tells you who's phoning you. So there's some identity there. That's really useful. So there's obviously some value with that, but I don't know whether there's a contextual communications, anything particularly deep there. There's the data. Now this is entirely up to you as the application developer. What data do you capture of that user? And therefore, what can you use to add context to the communications that you're building this communication in? And I think the intercom example is a good one there. They're capturing all sorts of data, and they can provide all that addition. Hey, we just saw that you tried out this feature for the first time the other day and then you haven't tried it again. And they might also be able to say, using some other information about, they know your situation, they know your static, they know you're at work, therefore they might want to have a real-time message chat with you. Otherwise it might be a push notification or an email. It gets quite interesting when you bring in things like, I think this is really important, and again it's more of an exploration. When you bring in scheduling to a lot of this stuff, so specifically around kind of things like IoT, the idea of you get out of your bed, should the shower or the boiler turn on, should the kettle turn on? It could, because it knows that you've got out of bed, but really it needs to know about the calendar. It needs to know what your plan is for the day. Are you staying at home that day, or are you going on a flight somewhere, or going out to work in the office? So in terms of communications as well, it's really important that we can take some idea of what that person's doing now and what their plans are in the near future to understand the best means of communicating with them. So it could be that with this, we'd obviously need location as well, so I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself a bit. If we know that I'm making my way to Bristol JS because I've got a calendar entry and it knows that I'm actually still in, well, not in the office and this is starting soon, then a communication application shouldn't want to have a voice conversation or a video conversation because I'm moving. So that's why, and obviously you can use both of these from JavaScript, which is quite interesting. But I do think that in terms of communication and understanding where someone is right now, in terms of their schedule and what they have planned, allows you to communicate with them in a better way. Contacts. So I guess you've kind of got that identity thing. So there isn't much really to go in there, but there might be a means to how you want to communicate with them based on who's trying to communicate. You could use a different messaging platform because you know these two people or more people are on a specific messaging platform. So it might be better to choose a Facebook message group if you can create that through an API rather than an SMS group chat. So. Geolocation. I've got little bits of code. I'm sure this is nothing new to anybody, but I just I wanted to get this working. I have got this bit working. I use this to kind of zoom busy cities into the location that we're in. But this is, I think, again, this is really, especially if you mash these things up with the Bristol JS example, that if the application knows or the service knows that I'm on my way to Bristol JS from my calendar, that I should only be communicating in certain ways that aren't interruptive, that don't stop me doing what I'm doing, walking or so on. You could do some quite interesting stuff if you've got location and you can see the speed at which I'm moving. Then maybe you shouldn't try and establish a video call with me because I could be driving my car. Especially again if you know the destination I've got. So what's the best way of communicating with me based on this information that you can provide, the context around the user? The network stuff's quite interesting as well. So right now we've got this add-in listener online offline. I don't think it's particularly reliable either. There is this NetInfo API coming along, network information, which will provide you with a lot more information around the type of network you're on, the quality of that network. So it could, again, in this situation, you could work out the context of that user. They have a very strong network, so you can establish a WebRTC, peer-to-peer, audio-video connection with them and have a conversation in that way. If you know that the network is just 2G or 3G, 2G, then probably just and they don't have any data maybe, then an SMS communication is probably the best way. You need to get in touch with them then. So you need to take all this information into account when you're thinking about how you're communicating. Whether you have access to the microphone, some more interesting stuff around this to, I think, maybe capture context of somebody, listen for sounds. Would they be able to hear have a voice conversation based on all the background noise, maybe? So there's no point establishing that. So you're maybe best going for a text-based communication in app or SMS. You obviously use it for communication as well. And then bringing the camera into that, we've obviously got that for WebRTC conversations. But again, maybe you could do more interesting stuff around capturing the mood of somebody. and therefore working out they really don't want to have a face-to-face call right now. They'd much rather have a message or send an email that they don't need to deal with right now. Orientation is an interesting one. You could work out based on a phone being flung around whether or not they're running, or whether they're going fast, and all sorts of things around that. So what is the best form of communicating with them based on this information that you can get from the device? Any other ideas around any of this stuff right now? I know there's a lot to take in. Can we use this now?
Isn't that what Apple did with the hands-free answer phone? Because they worked out that the accelerometer, so people were using it, but until the accelerometer, they pulled the accelerometer into it, so that when the phone stopped, then the message would actually start playing. Whereas if you're using it down there and you're clicking around, by the time you got up to there, you're missing the "Hi, I'm Adam Reynolds" bit. Yeah, and they were using that as a way.
Proximity sensor.
Was it that
Same
as well?
thing that turns on the screen and all that.
Proximity.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one it was, but yeah, I heard that they used actually started looking at physical interaction with the phone before triggering the actual answer phone from the phone.
There's a lot of safety stuff that you can do here, and I think that's very important. But I think as a user, it's probably quite annoying. You're kind of forced to communicate in some ways. I am with the glass on my phone. I used to sometimes use maps on this, and I put it down, not on the dashboard because I didn't have a holder for it, so I put it down there. And with the glasses that I had on, at a certain angle I couldn't see the screen. And I was convinced there was some sort of safety feature on my device, but it was purely for the glasses that I had and the screen. I said, this is amazing, it knows I'm driving and I shouldn't be looking down there. Anyway.
I think you still got the side phone page.
Battery. So the battery API I think is available. That's again quite an interesting one. Again, if you know that a user has low battery, then you don't really keep them off a video call or an audio call. A simple message, an SMS is probably the least battery consuming way of communicating, or an email that they don't even have to receive right now. SMS. Who still uses SMS for general communication? So I live in the country, so I do use it quite a bit. And also some of the people I communicate with. But certainly there's a move to IP messaging, WhatsApp, stuff like that. But it could be quite useful. Again, if you took into account the network problem, the location, it might be that if you need to get a message to somebody now, that SMS might be the best form of communication. So, but if we think about JavaScript, how do we do that? And there's a few interesting things here. So I had to play with this, so I thought there must be a way of doing it. I haven't one, but there, you can see down here I've just got an SMS protocol, and I can do the 2 number. I can send myself a message, it's pointless. But you can trigger an SMS, and if you know they're on a mobile device, then you can send somebody an SMS, or trigger that stuff, and Adam's chasing it. So that's quite interesting. And the other interesting thing is, because you can dynamically generate this, you can potentially add some context. So we're assuming that you're only going to contact somebody through a single number, but say this is communication with a company or with your application, then you can dynamically change that number. So you could register a bunch of different numbers, and you can say, based on the view there, which screen they're on in your application, you could use a different number to communicate. So you've got some context about where they were in the application when they communicate. And actually there's a thing called call tracking, or in marketing, people will put up in different locations or TV adverts, they put the different numbers up. So they know which number the inbound was on, and they can work out which was the most popular advert or time that advert was on. And phone, again, is not something you naturally think, well, I'm going to use a normal PSTN or a mobile phone app. You're thinking more about in-app messaging, but there might be times, again, your network connection and so on, that a phone might be the best, or the user themselves, they might choose their preferences. I just want to use my dialer, I'm making track of all my calls, I don't mind jumping context from being in the app to my phone. And you can do the same thing. So, you can use tel 2 number and kick off a call, and I'm going to show everybody mine. That's fine. Just to prove it works. So that's it. And again, you can't obviously then make the call, but you can bring up the dialer and then you just need to press the button. It's obviously not the same experience as just kicking off a call in app, but it's certainly doable.
Again.
Okay, so that's that. So what about the multi-channel? So because all of these are obviously different channels, and if you're moving from in-app communication, as soon as you leave the application, you tend to kind of lose that context. You lose some of the context. There are, as I said, there are kind of hacks around it. You can change the phone numbers. You try and transfer some of the data. You could also, in the SMS example, you can see you can do body equals hello. So you could prefix that, try and take some context with you as you jump to SMS as a communication platform. Or channel, should I say. And it is genuinely quite difficult to do this, to allow context to move from PSTN, IP messaging, voice, things like Facebook Messenger, SMS. Marketing pitch until recently. So Adam was saying that the hack at the weekend is the future of chat. So this is a product we're building, which is a conversation platform that allows you to create a conversation and then take that conversation across multiple channel types, whether it's SIP connections, PSTN, IP messaging, SMS, or YTC. So you create a conversation and you can pipe all of these messages or the voice and the video into this conversation. And it's quite interesting in the sense of the bot trend to think about having the chat, the Slack bots and so on. We're obviously having conversations with them, so I think the idea of conversations with these things is quite interesting. So if that interests you, then we're kicking off an early access program. It'll probably be a month's time, but we've got a Slack channel. You don't need, if you go in and you join it and then you're never in there again, we'll add channel to let you know when the big registration's open, if you are interested in trying that on. Lots of time for now. Have we got lots of time for questions? Yeah. So some questions or any ideas around that? Are there any obvious capabilities that we've missed out that we could provide more context and improve those communications? Or any obvious APIs that I've missed? Or
is it more about keeping the conversation going across different channels, rather than being from an application point of view? Say, for example, I'm on a site that's looking at London, and up comes a chat saying, "Hey, I noticed that you're looking to book a hotel." You just answer, "Yes, I am." Is that sort of response is the application intelligence? It's not something that next month is like. Or are you saying that it almost, if I then go onto a phone call, they know I've already had that conversation?
So we'll provide that conversation thread and the history of information in there,
right,
and the way for it to create a user. And it would be up to you to create a user and associate them with their PSTN line, their Facebook Messenger ID, but that user would just be associated with the IP messaging, and then you get an instance of the user within the conversation as a member, so that they can be in multiple conversations at the same time.
right.
I mean, the multi-channel, the cross-channel thing is obviously quite a unique thing, but and it was just an opportunity to talk about that today. But I think it's more about that we have a lot of functionality and capabilities available today to capture context and use those in the communications that we built, the functionality we built. I don't think we kind of do that now.
So is it customer identification?
That's obviously massively important. You need to ultimately, to start off with, associate who they are, and then apply all this other information to make intelligent decisions. I'm going to head it by.
So, is it the conversation you're trying to track and the context, or is it the user you're trying to track?
I think the benefit is to the user, hopefully.
Yeah.
But the conversation is the mechanism that you use.
Sure.
Because it's a history of events, so we're saying it's a history of events, which is not only the messaging, but also the types of communication that they they choose to
So
interact.
one sounds a bit scarier than the other, but from a technical point of view, for like a business thing, actually tracking the conversation is quite handy, because then if somebody else takes hold of the Jira or the CSP or the bug track issue or whatever, and it gets passed on to another member of the team, and that context moves with it, so it's in the conversation in that case, perhaps.
Yeah. This is a great thing about an API, you can use it as you wish. Any other questions? No? Cool. I'll share the slides afterwards, because there's a lot of kind of, like visualizations of ideas there, and it might be nice to kind of think about, look at that overview diagram and go, well, I'm building something here. What data can I actually access and I could potentially use in my app? Okay, thank you very much.